Hello everyone and welcome back to Maple Leaf Reviews. My name is Jeffrey.
And I am Jacob.
And today we're doing another review. This is going to be a review of one of my favorite games of all time.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Terra Mystica. I'm actually interested to see what Jake thinks of this game because the first time he played it, he wasn't overly impressed.
No, not at all.
And then we played it a couple more times since then. So I'm interested to see what you thought after the additional plays.
Yeah, Jeff kind of dragged me through the mud because he wanted to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So let's just jump right into it. Art and components for the game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's decent. It's overall, it's pretty good. There is nothing that jumps out and screams, "Oh, this is amazing artwork." But it's good. And component-wise, you got some thick, chunky wooden bits, which are nice to play around with. Player boards and everything. It's all good quality.
Yeah, I think the graphic design again is very functional. It's not a whole lot of flair to the game. The art is good, but you're not going to be writing home about Terra Mystica, the art was so amazing. But no, everything is good. Solid wooden pieces. Really, really good in that.
Yeah. And as far as the main board goes, I guess some people could say, "Oh, that's kind of bland looking," but that's it's essential for what this game is.
Yeah,
it's got to be that way, right?
Yeah, you need a clear distinction of that tile is forest, that one's swamp.
Yeah,
you know,
and it doesn't look bad. It's it's not. Oh my goodness, that looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's here's like a hex grid with a bunch of different types of terrain.
Yeah. For rules and teaching, how did you feel about that? Because you basically learned the game twice.
Yeah, I've learned the game twice. The first time I played it, which was a long time ago, and then relearning it again. And I feel like even in the third game that we played, I was still kind of learning just a few things here and there. Just little kind of tweaks to the rules.
Yeah.
Like the bridges.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they could only go at like the corner spaces and not the flat edges.
Yeah, where we're on the map, there's actually the art of broken bridges there, which is a little hard to pick out, and you might not notice it when you first go to build your bridge.
So I found out in the third game that there's a specific place of where you build your bridge. But
yeah, I definitely think again, teaching the game, you probably want to throughout the first game is remind people of the different little rules here, like they might be doing something to get money, and you could point out to them, well, if you want money, this would probably be a more efficient way to get it.
Yeah, and you did that a couple times during a few of our games, and I found it very helpful. I really liked that. It was good.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot going on. The actions themselves aren't that hard, but there's so many different ways to kind of manipulate your resources that you probably just want to, during the first few games, maybe just point a few things out to new people.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree.
So theme-wise...
Sorry, continue.
Theme-wise, do you feel like a fantasy race building a civilization?
No. I definitely don't feel. No. I definitely don't feel like a fantasy race building a civilization. And this last game that we played, I think I felt more like I was actually building a civilization. Yeah. And I think it was because there was a larger player count and there was like more happening across the board. But the first couple games, I felt like I wasn't really doing much of anything.
Yeah.
So thematically, no, I don't really see it at all.
No, I think the theme is kind of secondary. It's a game that you're going to play for the mechanics. I mean, sure, some of the mechanics try and tie into the theme a little bit. Like the engineers, they get bonuses for building bridges. Dwarves can tunnel under the mountains and come up in another mountain space. Witches can, fly around to the different forests on their witch brooms and stuff like that.
Sure.
So there's a few things here and there, but overall, I don't really feel that it's a game you're going to be coming to for the theme.
Yeah, it's just light.
Yeah. So on to the meat of the game then, the gameplay and mechanics.
Right.
So, a couple things that I really enjoy is all the different races. They kind of have a slightly different play style. And so every time I play a race, and I haven't even played them all yet, and I've played over a dozen times, is you're just trying to figure out how can I best play this race? How can I play to their strengths? Because if you try to play a race in a way that, kind of goes counter to what they're good at, you're going to have a harder time playing it, which is also something I think for new people is going to be hard.
Right.
Because if they try to play a race, then go counter to what that race's strategy is, they're just not going to feel like they're going to be able to do very much in the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely felt like that in my first couple of games, just trying to grasp what it is that you're doing over the course of the game and not really focusing on, okay, well, this is my player power. And you're not really going to feel different because you don't know how the game plays, I guess, normally, if there were no player powers.
Right.
So yeah, I like that as well. I feel like each of the different races isn't extremely different from one another. No. It's usually just like one ability that you have that's different than everyone else. And so on that one thing, you're slightly different, but you can still watch what everyone else is doing and you get it. You're just like, oh yeah, they did that. I can do that too. So
yeah, you really want to capitalize.
It's not overbearing.
No, you just want to try and capitalize on that little edge that makes you good at this certain thing. The other thing that I really like is there's a lot of, I think, replayability built in.
Yeah.
With the different round bonuses, so it kind of provides a little bit of a framework, a little bit of a structure for what you want to be going for when. So like this round, you might get a whole bunch of bonus points for building dwellings, or trading posts, or you want to be doing this. And then also at the end of the round, you get the cult bonuses. So there's 4 different cults. You can move up with those, and depending on how far you are up with a certain cult, you get a bonus income.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like a little bit of nudging you in certain directions to try and get the most points that way.
Yeah, it wasn't until this third game that I played that I really was paying a lot of attention to those bonuses at the end of each round and was able to capitalize on those. And I felt like I enjoyed the game a lot more once I was able to comprehend everything that was going on in the entirety of the game. Whereas the first couple games that I played, it was just like, hey, I'm looking to expand. I'm looking to build this up or whatnot. And I wasn't too worried about endgame scoring.
Yeah.
But now in this last game, I was able to look at the grandiose scheme of things and say, hey, I need to be aware of this. Hey, I need to be aware of this. And then this and this. And I was able to look at all that stuff, and it was a lot better. So
yeah, I think this game, you kind of want to look at all the bonuses kind of at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Formulate a strategy. Okay, during this time of the game, I'm going to be going for this, and then I'm going to set myself up for this bonus, which is kind of what I was doing during the game. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to worry about building this round, building my temples this round, because next round I'm going to be able to build them and get 4 points for them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you got to look at the game as a whole rather than breaking it down into individual rounds where you're just going to be doing whatever you want during that round.
Exactly.
You got to take a whole game approach to how you're going to build your civilization.
Yeah, and some of those round scorings are not as important. Like one might be, oh, hey, you get 1 extra cube. And that cube is really great, but there might be another one where you're scoring 3 points every single time you're putting down one of these buildings. Well, you want to make sure that on that round, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you're scoring huge points. Whereas if you miss out on 1 cube, 1 worker, that's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, you gotta.
So you can kind of formulate a plan there to say, okay, I'm not going to worry about that one on this round, and I'm going to work towards this other plan, which is going to get me to this next step in the future round.
And I think that's where a lot of the decision making can come in, and the weighing the benefits for yourself. Oh, like I'll get bonus points if I wait to build my stronghold next round. But my stronghold ability is really good. Am I going to get more benefit if I build it now?
Exactly.
Or wait till later? So you're always weighing these decisions on what's the best time to do what I need to do for my civilizations.
Yeah, and that's probably my favorite thing about the game as a whole is the depth that's here, because there is a lot going on, and there's a lot that you have to just be aware of for every round, based off of your player based off of what these different middle game and end game scoring tiles that come up, and then based off of what your opponents are doing as well. Because they're kind of feeding you throughout the game as well.
Right, and so going into, I want to touch on player interaction.
Right.
So you're building up your civ. There is no attacking. Like, you can't destroy someone else's stuff once it's been built. But I feel like there is a lot of indirect player interaction. There's these actions on the board that you can take once a round. But once someone takes it that round, nobody else can.
Mm-hmm.
So snagging those early to prevent someone else from taking it is huge.
Yep.
It's because it's a really good discount that you can get, like money or workers or even shovels to terraform the different land spaces. Yep. And also, just terraforming land spaces around other people that are easy for them to transform.
Right.
Because resources are so tight and terraforming is so expensive if you don't upgrade.
Yeah, I never even really thought about that until, like, just as you started to talk about that, I was like, man, that'd be, like, a rough strategy if you just, like, terraform something that you expected them to want to terraform into something that would be a lot of work for them to get rid of.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of, you got to be aware of what other people are doing. You want to stay close to other people because you get the benefit of the cheaper trading houses.
Yeah.
But, again, if you're too close to other people and they terraform stuff that you can easily terraform, then you're just going to cost more in the long run.
Yeah, and you need to have room to expand as well, because you're also going for those cities. Because once you get to a certain size of connection, then you can transform that into a city and get a bonus victory points as well as extra abilities like money or workers or whatever you need at that point in time, which is great. So it's tough to balance those two. Stay close, but leave some room.
Right, and then also you have the actual end game scoring that you're going for, either trying to be the highest up on all the different cults to get those points. So there's player interaction there. You're jostling for position, as well as a end game scoring of either the longest connected city or the most settlements scattered across the map. And that's one thing with the expansion, which I have. Actually comes with more variable end-game scoring. Okay. So it's not always the same one. So that adds even more replayability.
Right.
Or a different goal that you're shooting for. You're not always shooting for the same thing.
Right. I want to say something about the 4 tracks that you're going up. What are they called again?
The cult tracks.
The cult tracks, right. So the 4 cult tracks, my favorite thing about that is, like, you're vying for power on those in 4 different zones. But as you cross these certain thresholds, you're also unlocking more power, which you're getting back, which I think without that, I would really dislike this cult track. Yeah, just because you wouldn't be doing anything. It's just like, oh, I gotta force myself up here to keep myself ahead of everyone else so that I'm getting endgame scoring. But they added in these little, once you hit this ledge, you unlock this. And you're just like, oh, that would be really helpful. Yeah. So you're just like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, it's really great. And that kind of plays into this game is all about resource management, right? You have workers, you have money, you have power. Yeah. Those are your 3 resources plus priests you can use as well.
Right.
And you're trying to use all these different resources, and I mean it's tight. You'll never have as many resources as you want. And I think part of what I like about the game and made me do really bad in my second game is if you try to do too much and you overextend, just because you can build something doesn't mean you should build something.
Right. Yeah.
Because if it's not going to be doing anything for you, then why are you building it? So figuring how far to push yourself and trying to extend and manage those resources is something I really enjoy.
Yeah, touching on that, even in this last game that we played, that was a huge factor for me in my playstyle, because I was waiting for this specific tile to come up so that I was scoring for my trade houses when I was putting them down, and that tile wasn't free for me to grab, and so I was just like, I'm just going to wait another round before I build these trade houses, because then I'm going to get a whole bunch of points.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to build them, but it's just not worth it yet.
Yeah. So you're always like, the decision of when to make the move, when to expand, when to build up. That's where the interesting decision making comes into the game, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, shall we go on to the final rating?
Well, I have a bunch of cons that I want to talk about.
Oh, some cons to this game. Oh my goodness.
So the first is the learning curve to the game. I feel like there's a significant learning curve because you need to play the game to figure out how it works before you can actually be good at it.
Yeah.
So you really need that first game is just a complete throwaway.
It definitely is a learning game or learning games.
Yeah. And then the second game, you're getting an idea, but then you're kind of that second game, you're learning how the flow of the game goes. And then I think by your third game, you can actually start competing.
Yeah.
So that learning curve can be a downside, especially if you're good at the game and then you're teaching someone new.
Yeah.
There's going to be a struggle. The other thing is I think the player count might be a bit off. I think a 2-player game, I've struggled in the 2-player games, and I felt like nothing really happened in the 2-player games that we played. And then we played a 3-player game, and I felt like there was a lot more going on in that 3-player game, and it was actually more enjoyable.
Yeah, I will say that. So I played majority of my games as 2-player.
Right.
In a 3-player game, you do, I feel, get more power from other people. But in a 2-player game, when you're playing with 2 people who really know what's going on and knowing how to expand so that you're going to stay parallel to each other,
right,
so that you'll always get those cheap building costs, then you actually get as much done. Like I've gotten as much done in a 2-player game as we did in that 3-player game.
Right.
It's just each player has to be trying to stay close to one another.
Right. So I guess that just kind of tailors back to my first thing about it just being a learning game, and you just need to learn the nuances of it so that you can be good at it. I think, again, also attached to that would be that you can get locked down in this game. And like Jenny in this last game, we were kind of being douches and like blocking her off and just making sure she didn't really get anything. She had a horrible game and she was pretty mad throughout that whole game. And I think that's easy for that to happen. And that's just going to lead to you having an unenjoyable time, and you're going to be locked into the game for an hour or an hour and a half, not having a good time because you're getting screwed over.
Yeah, you have to be aware of what's going to be really important for you, and you need to jump on that right away. If it's going to be really important for you, you need to jump on it now, because other people may jump on it and take it away from you, then you can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be unforgiving if you don't capitalize on what you need to capitalize on.
Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the power rondelle and how these power cubes go, or power discs go around, and the ability that you have to burn them out permanently so that you can move other ones over. The thing that I dislike about this, and it's small, but at the end of the game, the amount of power that you have on the very last turn doesn't matter. Right. So you can actually just burn everything that you want just to move everything over, so you can take some actions and then just have no power left over. I almost feel like power should be worth something, worth some points at the end of the game.
Well, they technically are, because you could spend those power for 1 coin apiece, and then every 3 coins is a point. I mean,
which is fairly insignificant, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, and think about the points that you're going to be earning at the end. Those couple points might just push you over the edge. But I think the thing about the power is you got to figure out where is your threshold. Yeah. Do you want to save up a whole bunch of power and keep all 12 there so that you eventually get 12 into your third bowl to get a huge amount of points in turn? Or do you want to run at a lower power count? Because if you run at 6, well, then you have access to that double shovel power ability on the main board. Or if you don't care about that one, you can actually run leaner and run at like a 4 power count. Right. So you're rotating quicker. But then if you run that low and you come to the end of the game, at most you're going to be able to burn 2 to get 2 power. And 2 power does nothing for you. Right. So it's just another decision that you have to make is, how lean do I want to run my power to get the bonuses? What am I going to be using it for? Am I just going to be using it to get those coins? Or am I going to be using it to actually use the power actions on the board? Right.
Yeah, I see that, but I just feel like it should be worth something at the end of the game. I kind of visualize it as this power is like your influence kind of thing, and it's worth nothing at the end of the game.
Well, it's worth as much as everything else is, right? Because like a worker, you convert your workers, your priests, and your money all and your power all into $1.
Yeah.
And then every $3 gets you a point. Like you aren't going to be making up the bulk of your points at the end of the game by just saving up all this power.
Right.
So it's just a little bonus to maybe push you over the edge.
Right.
Really, you should just be focusing on gaining those points throughout the game and getting the most on those different in-game bonuses.
Cool.
All right.
Alrighty. So final rating.
What's yours?
So my final rating is it's gone up. Like when I first played this game, I probably would have rated it maybe a 5. And it's slowly climbing the more I play it. It's at about a 7 right now for me.
Okay.
So it's a game that I would play. I recognize that there is something there that people are going to enjoy. It's probably not something I would ask to come to the table very often, but would be willing to play it.
All right. Well, my final rating is a 9.
Okay.
So to me, it's a great game. It's one that, you know, I think about after I play the game. I think about, if I did this or maybe did that, and then just even how actively engaged I am when the game is set up. Again, thinking about, how am I going to play this game this time? How am I going to take advantage of all these bonuses? How am I going to use my player power to take the most advantage? It just gets me engaged every time it comes to the table, and I would just want to explore all the different races and the different abilities and stuff. So for me, it's a 9 for sure.
Cool. And well, maybe mine will keep raising my opinions of the game. We'll have to see.
We'll see.
You'll have to force the game to the table on me at some point, and then maybe I'll think of it more and eventually start asking for it.
All right. Well, that's Terra Mystica. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes, it really helps us out, helps us keep doing this. So hit that subscribe button for us.
And we'll see you guys next time.